The baseline means one thing. It means that the run-up is up and running for the next little while. It is John here, Jason there. What is the emergency drinking beer of choice this evening?
It is the Cram Palm blend, the fall blend. And it doesn't really taste cranberry or pomegranate-y, but it's really good. It's really nice.
Okay. So as we are at this point of the day, since it is not the morning, it is the Diet Dr. Pepper here on this end. We will discuss anything and everything on your minds when it comes to Atlanta and Cincinnati coming up tomorrow. So you can hit us up on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. You can go onto the Twitch pitch where Jason is monitoring and keeping an eye on things, twitch.tv/Soccer Down Here. There's been some other news in MLS this afternoon. There was one game in MLS this afternoon. Our focus for the next little while is Atlanta and Cincinnati. So do you want to talk about today before we get into tomorrow and work our way forward? How do you want to play this?
Yeah, I'm about to leave because Chiefs coach Steve is finishing homemade chili, and I'm going to hang out at Steve's place. Forget this.
Exactly. That's a great play.
Come on now. We'll get into the news today first. MLS has announced that San Jose and LAFC has been postponed. They might make that up before decision day. That has not been determined as of yet. They will not make up Sporting Kansas City and Minnesota. That match has been canceled. It will not be rescheduled due to the limited number of match dates ahead of decision day, if I am not mistaken. Both teams play in the midweek, or at least one of them does, so that's where you're at. There's just no time. So we already knew that points per game was going to come into play. Now it's going to come into play even more than we thought. So Minnesota plays Chicago. I can remember which one it was. So, if you're an Atlanta United fan, you kind of look at this a little bit and say, well, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me make sure it's ready. Yeah, it is. Oh, it's over there, though. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you can hear it. You know what's going on. When you look at Minnesota, right, they're not playing the game against Sporting Kansas City, but they are making up the game that will affect Atlanta when they play Chicago. So they really better win on Wednesday and beat Chicago. That would be very helpful for Atlanta United. Right now, on points per game, now Chicago will play the game that they have in hand on everybody. Chicago is in 10th place on points per game with 1.05. Miami and D.C. are on 1 point per game. Atlanta's on 0.9. It's a little complicated because if everybody plays the same number of games, Miami will be ahead of Chicago because they have more wins. But let's wait and see what happens this week.
Yeah, the background on the rest of it. Earlier this week, remember, LAFC announced 3 positive cases of COVID-19 in their player group. And while the remaining players and staff, this is from Major League Soccer, have continued to test negative, including yesterday, out of the abundance of caution, the match was postponed. Confirmed earlier in the week with the cancellation, confirming 1 case on Wednesday, a second Minnesota United player today confirmed positive for COVID-19. Once again, limited number of match dates prior to decision day. The match is not rescheduled. So that's your player numbers and positive cases that led to the decision making that came out this afternoon.
Yeah, earlier today, too, Dallas won 3-0 over Houston. Really couldn't believe much in Houston getting anything done here. Goal in the 19th for Franco Jara, 27th and 93rd for Fafa Pico. He gets the brace, and Dallas puts themselves into a pretty good position. They've been really kind of all over the place lately. They are in 6th in the table right now in points per game. They're pretty far ahead of the San Jose, Colorado, and then further back to Vancouver and RSL group. Dallas could, and now points per game becomes interesting with LA and that San Jose match, because if that gets played or doesn't get played, right now Dallas is even with LAFC on points per game. Minnesota, who has one game that will not get played, they are at 1.58, while Dallas is at 1.55. So 4, 5, and 6 in the West is going to be chaotic. Shiva asked how it's going to affect the Western Conference picture. That group is kind of wild. So you have almost like three groups that we're talking about here. The top of the table, Seattle, Sporting, and Portland. It's 1.84 for Seattle, 1.8 for Sporting, and Sporting has played one more game, and they have one more point, but they're in second on points per game. Portland is at 1.75. Then there's a fall backwards to the group we just talked about. Minnesota, 1.58. LAFC, 1.55. And now Dallas on 1.55. Then the group for 7, 8, 9, 10. And remember, only 7 and 8 get in the Western Conference. San Jose at 1.29. Colorado at 1.27. But remember, results are going to hit Colorado harder either way on points per game because they have fewer games played. So it's going to be more of an effect of a win or a loss for them. Vancouver is on the outside looking in at 1.14, and RSL is at 1.1, and that loss pretty much wipes out the Dynamo. They are officially eliminated, and the LA Galaxy are not officially eliminated, but they might as well be. Dominic Kinnear has to pull off miracles.
Yeah, the game this afternoon, it was dominant by FC Dallas after the Franco Jara goal on the 27th. There was another chance early in the second half for Jara to get a second goal before he got the one in the 93rd. Awful giveaway by Wilfred Zahibo. And Jara basically had a break-in on net, ended up pushing it wide, and he knew it. I think this was like in the 52nd minute. And then another pass that was working its way backward, didn't have enough juice on it, picked off. Jara gets sent down, puts that one away in the 93rd for the 3-0. And it was just a dominant performance by FC Dallas this afternoon.
Steve is saying to check the Twitters, making sure you check them all.
Oh, yes. I wanted to get my comment about FC Dallas and Houston out before I mention this. Okay. Steve has posted a rather large photo of the chili in question.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of it there. And he says to bring cornbread. Yeah.
Damn COVID. One of these days.
Right.
One of these days, Steve. But yes, I am very envious of your chili, and D. Graham is working on some chili for tomorrow. Envious. Very, very envious. Okay. So today, I didn't watch the Dallas-Houston game. I've been bouncing around a whole bunch of different games today. Barcelona threw everything at the wall. Couldn't find a goal. They got a 1-1 draw. Crisis in Barcelona will continue. The Argentine League is back, or the Copa Liga Profesional de Football. River Plate plays tomorrow, and we don't know where yet. Yeah, that's really happening. The league told River you can't play in your River camp, temporary, whatever you want to call it, and they told him that at like 1 o'clock this afternoon and said you had to have another venue by 8 o'clock, and River's like, what?
Well, yeah.
Because they're renovating El Monumental. They're taking the running track out. So it is unusable. The place they were waiting on approval. The league finally got around to not approving it, and who knows what's going to happen with this game now. I guess it should be played at the other team's venue if the Argentine Federation did anything sensibly, but they don't. So who knows what will happen with that game. They might play it in a public park in Buenos Aires at this point. There's a big game on for you Fanati subscribers and Gold TV subscribers in Ecuador right now. Universidad Católica and Independiente del Valle is early in the first half. It's still scoreless. Lots of good soccer all over the world today. Lots of huge games tomorrow in MLS. And we got a question from Christopher Abel to get us to Atlanta and Cincinnati. 2 questions, actually. Weakest player on Cincinnati that Atlanta should attack? And is there anyone that Atlanta could try to get red carded, either dog-so tactical fouling or getting under their skin? So let's look back. Cincinnati is all over the map on their lineups right now. They've got some new faces. Jaap Stam is also at a point where he's looking at different players in this group, probably making some decisions for next year. Let's look back. Let's go game by game in these last 2 because they've been a little different. So last time out was Sporting Kansas City. It's a 1-0 loss. And the way they lined up, Spencer Ritchie's been in goal lately. Back line was Andrew Gutman on the left, Tom Pedersen in the middle with Nick Hagland, Zico Bailey on the right. Holding midfielders were Medunjanin, who's been really good lately, and Mokocho, who is a newcomer from South Africa. He's been good. He's added a little bit of more dynamic play in that central midfield. Frankie Amaya was in front of them. Out wide, it was Jurgen Locadia on the left. Sim de Jong played in the middle, which was a little odd, and Joe Jiao on the right side. De Jong and Locadia would be pretty interchangeable. If you're looking at that group and you're looking for somebody to attack, well, Zico Bailey, because it was his first start. You want to go after young players like that and test them early. So that plays into Atlanta attacking down the left side with Ezequiel Barco, with George Bello, Marcelino Moreno drifting over there. You like that. Andrew Gutmann, not a great 1v1 defender. You want to put pressure on him too. That's Jurgen Damm. That's Brooks Lennon attacking. You like Atlanta out wide against Cincinnati out wide. These things are good. You're looking for somebody to get under their skin. Harris Medunjanin has a short fuse. We've seen it. Saw it firsthand with Philadelphia at the Benz, where he made some motions that are inappropriate in mixed company, and he said lots of things that are inappropriate in any company, and was sent off. It was really impressive. Two of the fastest yellow cards back-to-back that I've ever seen. But when you do the things he did, it's not really a surprise. He probably should have been suspended for a longer period of time. I don't know if they caught everything that he did. There was references to things that we don't talk about around here. So he would be one that you could get a little riled up. And if you're Atlanta and you have Moreno and you have Josetu as those two central midfielders are going to push forward a little bit, they'll put pressure on him. They'll catch him because he's not fast. Very good in these last few games. He's created 10 chances in the last two, 5 per match. He's had a ton of the ball, almost 100 passes in each match. He's not much of a defender. That was the knock on him in Philadelphia. That's why Philadelphia got better with their system with Jose Martinez, but he suits Cincinnati because he's a veteran, because he's good on the ball. And now that they have Mokocho next to him, you have somebody who can do some of the running for him. So it's a little bit better setup, but he's still the one that if I'm picking somebody that's going to get sent off, it's him. If I'm picking somebody who could say and do some things that will end up on SportsCenter for bad reasons, it's him. And if I'm looking for places to attack, if you're Atlanta, it's out wide. If they're going to go with these young outside backs, you want to put the pressure on them as much as you can. If it's Mathieu Deplan at right side, okay, a little more of a veteran, a little more stable over there. But if it's Zico Bailey, you want to test him early. You want to make life difficult for him. You want to break him into the match. If it's Gutmann, who it should be because Garza's out injured, you want to run at him too. Both of those guys like to get forward, so you want to attack behind them when they do.
We have an update from Steve about his chili.
Oh, how's it going?
Apparently, it is time to eat because it has sliced onion whole, like it's not like grated onion. It has like the onion chunks to go in there, along with cheese, a grated cheese, and a lot of meat and a lot of chili. He says, "Time to eat. Have a great show." So he's making us insanely jealous.
Yeah, seriously. The onion chunks, I'm a little intrigued by that. I usually like the sautéed onions a little bit more, but that's okay. It's all good.
And Chris Hutchison says he never thought about making chili for giving out at Halloween. He likes that idea.
If I was a little bit older and I was going around to the Halloween places like I did when I was in high school, if I got a bowl of chili, I'd be happy. I'd be ecstatic. Yeah. That'd be great. I need to make some chili. I haven't made chili yet this year. It needs to happen. I'm going to do this. Now you guys have got me going.
You see Dan Graham's in with a question about the Atlanta side of things.
Okay. What we got?
He says, with the playoffs likely in the rearview mirror at this point, can we get Campbell some minutes? Home minutes would surely be easier than road. Otherwise, we've wasted this year in his development.
I don't think one game makes the difference for him. And the hard thing is, they're not completely out of the playoff picture, and you can't punt on it. You just can't. I agree. You'd rather get him this game than the one in Columbus. If you're out when you go to Columbus, I'm fine with playing him there. Again, it doesn't make a difference in his development. What you have to hope is that the training sessions have been enough for him this year and have been good for him. I'm sure they have been good. Have they elevated his game? He's got to show that next year. I think he's going to need a loan spell next year. And maybe you do it as a 6-month loan to start the season. Although, again, we don't know when the season's going to start, so maybe that could get tricky. He needs to play, and I don't think it's with Atlanta United too. He's been there and done that. I think he needs to go play elsewhere, and we see what this year has done for him. And I'd do 6 months, because if it goes really well, bring him back into the mix. I don't know if I'd do a guaranteed year loan for him, but one game doesn't really make the difference. It's just been one of those years, and it stinks. I would have loved to have gotten him more minutes with the twos this year as that mix, but it didn't work out that way. If you're out next week, play him. I'm cool with that, but you can't play him right now when you're in must-win territory and you still have a playoff shot.
Would something like what we saw with John Gallagher going to Aberdeen make sense? Something with George Campbell going to Aberdeen?
It could.
Because of the relationship?
I mean, it's not just like going to Aberdeen. That sounds great, but is he going to play? Because that's the number one thing. If he's going to go over there and be in the rotation for minutes, absolutely, that's a good spot for him. If he's going to go over there and just be on the bench, no, that's a bad idea. Unless you feel like he's going to learn some things being out on loan that will help him even if he doesn't play. I think he needs to play. So if Aberdeen would play him, absolutely. But that's going to be the determination.
And since we're going down that road, who else do you think could benefit from a loan situation that's currently a part of the landscape that we've seen with Atlanta United?
I mean, he's the main one. I think Wyke is what he is. He's a good utility option. I don't know if he gets better from a loan. I think getting him games with Atlanta United too to keep him sharp is fine. Tyler Wolff hasn't played a ton with the twos at all, so I think he can benefit from playing with Atlanta United 2 in the championship. I'm reluctant for somebody to be on an MLS deal and play for the twos for multiple years. I don't know if it really helps you in that case, because it's just kind of a weird situation. Like, the twos are not your normal team. They're there to develop young players. They're there to get guys minutes. Results are important, but it's not looked at the same way. That's why Carlton, when he went to Indy 11, that made more sense, because he had done the twos thing before. He had done well there. There wasn't anything else for him to do there. It made sense for him to go somewhere where they were telling him, look, we need you to lead us in the attack. You have expectations to perform. The twos, you have different expectations. So I think Campbell needs to go on loan. I think Wolff would be okay because he's only got the one game with the twos there. But if you look at it, and this is where you have to look at the whole organization depth chart. If you look at it with the twos next year and you say, well, we've got these kids in the academy coming, we've got these other players we want to take a look at. Wolff wouldn't even necessarily get all the minutes at the twos. Well, then look for a loan for him too. For me, it's like the twos are the entry point, but there comes a time where these players get stuck in between the twos, and it's not get stuck between USL Championship and MLS. Get stuck between Atlanta United 2 and Atlanta United. Right. And they've maxed out what they can do with the twos, and they need to go elsewhere if they're not ready for Atlanta United yet. And that's the tough spot. That's the toughest spot, because you got to pick the right place for them to go. Whether it's another USL Championship team in some cases, cool. Whether it's another MLS team, if they're young enough, you can do that. That's a possibility as well. Or a situation like Aberdeen or elsewhere that you can loan them to where they're going to go and play. They have to go and play. That's the vital piece.
And since you mentioned USL Championship, just quickly, in case folks missed it earlier this afternoon, the USL announced that the 2020 Championship final scheduled for tomorrow is not going to be played from the league. It was made, decision was made for health and safety involved after multiple persons on the Tampa Bay Rowdies covered persons list tested positive for COVID-19 upon a second round of rapid testing Saturday morning at the Tampa Bay Rays medical facilities. Affected individuals immediately isolated at home, recovering in good spirits, according to USL, under care of team physicians, infectious disease experts. Tampa Bay and Phoenix have made the decision that they are now conference title holders, and there's a discussion that they might be a 2021 season kickoff match as well as a part of all of this.
Yeah, the league made the decision that they're the conference champions. They didn't decide themselves. Let's be clear.
We're a conference champion.
You already won that. They're not having a championship match. So you're not having co-champions. You have conference champions. You don't have a league champion this year. And, yeah, that makes sense to have some kind of match between the two to start next season. That's a good idea. We jinxed USL. We're sorry. They'd been doing a really good job. We said they'd been doing a really good job, and now they lose both of their championship matches.
And I think that Chris Ashley's probably still recovering from the championship celebration in Greenville last night.
That's fine. He should be. Hair of the dog, man.
Tremendous.
I mean, it's 7:22 the night after, so I hope you're doing better. But hair of the dog, Bloody Marys, they go down really well right about now if that's what you need.
Random note from Bart, and he is in on the timeline. He says, nothing to do with anything you're talking about, but I reffed a U12 game today with a holding midfielder that you would appreciate.
I appreciate
Great
holding
ball
midfielders.
Winner. And a super tidy passer. Stopped almost every opposition attack through the middle.
Very nice. I like that. I'm scouting holding midfielders in the Argentine League. I'm starting my document on the Argentine League for this season. I've got a new format. I'm going to keep track of standouts in each match and keep an eye on some of these folks. There's a few who have popped up already that are on the list. I went back. I showed it to the guys in the chat. I'd started doing this last season, and I didn't keep up with it as much as I would have liked. Things got really busy, and I didn't keep adding to it. But the last time it had been updated was the end of September of last year, I think.
Yeah.
And the number one name on the list was Marcelino Moreno, which was kind of funny. The description was apt. I got that one right. I mean, I wasn't the only one looking at Marcelino Moreno. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that. But he made my list, so that's pretty cool. We'll see if this list works for anything. I'm basically looking at guys who I think could be MLS targets. I'm not tying it down just to Atlanta United. Looking for guys who are under the age of 30. So there's a couple different categories. There's your really young guys. Good player came in. Who was it for? I think it was for Newell's. Came in off the bench, 19-year-old winger, had a couple of chances created, had an assist, did really, really, really well for them, really active. But I'm also looking at some of those 25, 26, 27-year-old guys that would be good signings for MLS. Guys who are valued at $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. It'd be not even TAM signings in some of these cases that would elevate some teams that don't have a ton of money going out to the market. So just keeping that list. We'll see how many of them end up in the league, but we're only halfway through round number 1. Boca plays later tonight. So I'll be flipping between Boca and Nashville for my games of the evening.
Yep. Nashville and Chicago are at 8:30. Nashville's a plus 127 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Chicago is basically at about 2.25. Your draw is a plus 230. In addition to that one, I've got Liga MX off my shoulder as I get ready for the Conca Cinco on Monday night.
That's right.
And right now, your random update, Millonarios is leading Atlético Nacional 1-0 in the 24th, and that's off my shoulder currently here in Office HD.
And that's not from Mexico. That'd be from Colombia.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Because I'm waiting for the Liga MX match to start at the top of the hour.
Okay, just checking. I got Ecuador on. I'm a different South American snob than you tonight. I'll have Boca on in there a little bit. All right, the comments are all over the place, which is absolutely cool. We didn't have a power hour today, so it's kind of all lumped together. We will talk a lot of Atlanta, Cincinnati. Don't get me wrong, but Ropes, Gimnasia got a big win for Maradona's birthday. Yes. Yeah, he didn't stay for the match, and that was the plan all along. I think that sent off some alarm bells when he came out and then left before the match started. But that was the plan all along. He did come out and get some gifts, looked very moved by some of the gifts and some of the folks who came out to wish him a happy birthday. Gimnasia lit it up with a big win. They looked really, really good. And there's some young players in that team that absolutely should be looked at, some 24-year-olds, some 22-year-olds that I think MLS should be keeping an eye on, because that's a club that would probably appreciate the business if clubs come a-calling. They looked really good last night. Tacheres looked really good last night as well. They beat Newell's Old Boys. Newell's had a red card. They pulled one back, and then Tacheres scored 2 late to win it 3-1. Those were both fun games. The games today have been not so good in Argentina. Colonel's happy because Swansea capped a 6-point week with a clean sheet. A shutout in American, according to the Colonel. We say clean sheet a pretty good bit. That's one of the terms that crosses over a lot. I'm not talking about we and the us we. I'm talking about in the general American soccer we.
Yeah.
I think clean sheet's one that people get totally. It was a clean sheet against the highest scoring side in the championship. So good stuff.
Blackburn Rovers, middle of the table, yes.
Very good stuff. The academy for Atlanta United was up in Charlotte and split matches with Charlotte, but Kefsey points out that the I-85 Royal Rumble was won on aggregate. So there you go. Take that. The U15 match, which was Atlanta's U14s, I believe, they won. And the U17s for Charlotte won. But on aggregate, Atlanta takes it. Sounds like a plan to me. I like it. Shiva says, based on Kubo Torres' comments, I would start him tomorrow. And his comments, because it was asked, said, we have to finish well more than for our futures, but for the institution, because it's a big club with a strong infrastructure, and we have to respect it and the crest. That is how players from around the world talk. Mm-hmm. That needs to be understood going forward in this country, because stuff like that gets said around MLS, and it's generally like, yeah, whatever. Well, they don't really care. They absolutely care, because Atlanta United has a brand, a crest that has respect. Kubo Torres gets that. That's not lip service. That's very clear indication that he is fired up and understands what's at stake. And as has been twisted way out of what was said. Nobody is just going into these games not caring about what's going on. There was a quote from Mateus Rossetto that was taken completely out of context. That was not what he was saying at all. He was talking about the bad times that the team was in were temporary. Really disappointed to see that road get plowed a little bit with this idea that the front office, the coaching staff, the players, they don't really care how the games are going right now. That's really incorrect. Kubo Torres' quote tells you that. So a little disappointed that that's out there and that's being run with in some circles. Very disappointed. Christopher Abel says, still prefer Joseph's play with a knife between your teeth or you'll answer to me quote. See, that's different, though. It's not the same we got to play for the badge quote. Joseph's quote is a general quote that when things are good, you need to play like that in big games. Kubo's quote is specifically about this is a club, an institution, a serious place that is going through a hard time. And we have to fight not just for our individual futures, but for the people who employ us, because they don't deserve to be in this situation. He's also saying that as you guys, the supporters, are part of that conversation. You guys don't deserve the results that are being out there. That's what Kubo's talking about. He's talking about a very specific situation. Joseph is talking about a general mentality that, you better play with that kind of mentality when he's on the field, or he's going to take the knife and do things with it. That's what happens. But it's you gotta make sure we're understanding the context of all this stuff here. Christopher Abel asks, how much Argentine soccer do I watch in a week? 4, 5, 6 hours. I watch the Argentine league when it's going more than any other league outside of MLS. Absolutely do. I'm just more interested in a Talleres Newell's Old Boys match than a Liga MX match, than a Colombian match, than an Ecuadorian match. When there's overlap and the Argentine games will start a little early, I'll watch Argentine games over English games a lot of times, or La Liga games. I don't know why. I'm just more interested in the competition, and it's a style that I enjoy. So that's where I'm at. I'm weird. I know. I'm an Argentine snob. I get it. It's all good. No problems there. What do we have on Twitter?
Chiefs coach Steve with yet another photo. From
Steve, go eat, man.
Well, no, but it gets even more interesting. Milionarios has just scored a penalty, so they're now up 2-0. He says, chili, check. Picture of a fire in a fire pit. S'mores gang? He's taunting us with s'mores now, with the possibility of s'mores to go with his chili.
I like s'mores, but I'm not that worked up about s'mores. I don't like marshmallows that much.
You really?
No, not a huge fan. I mean, they're fine.
Okay.
I'm not like going to throw the marshmallows in the trash or do the classic John Nelson, ew. I'm not going to do that.
David, ew.
No, you do the ew about things a lot.
I do. I will not dispute that.
It's not like that with marshmallows. I'm just kind of meh. I'd just rather have the chocolate and the graham crackers, to be honest.
Have you seen the Oreos with the different fillings, and one of those fillings is chocolate cream and marshmallows now?
No, I've not tried that.
Strong. It is.
Okay.
It is a good change of pace. So the boss and I are buying Oreos a lot recently to go with our ice creams, and and that new one was instantly attractive to me. So that's the one. That's the road that I've gone down to go with my Nutter Butters. It is now that new Oreo.
Oh well, all right, fair enough. Okay, question from J-Dub. Do you think we will fill both young designated player slots before the beginning of next season? And I'm assuming through the conversation, the U22 initiative side, because Lopez should be in one.
Right.
I think that's the intention. I mean, it's impossible to predict with the transfer window and the season and when it starts and how windows line up and all that. That part's out of our control in predicting. But, yeah, I would think that would be the intention. And I would think they'd have guys already targeted for this. I'm sure they are watching the Argentine League. I'm sure they're watching the Ecuadorian League, the Colombian League, and they're looking at some of these young players that are playing and not just – prospects, but guys who are getting games at the first division level in these countries, saying, all right, these guys could come in and play tomorrow if we needed them to. All right. So I think that's the intention. I don't know if it'll work out that way, but I do think that's the plan. Question from Shiva about the names that have been linked to DC United. So I think we had an update on that from Stephen Goff. I read it. Yep. I don't remember all of the names. I know Ezra Hendrickson is making some waves there. Stephen Goff tweeted that Hendrickson has impressed, will be among 5 to 6 finalists. Chad Ashton is expected to be on the final list. Jill Ellis, Chris Armas, others in MLS circles, and some international coaches remain in the mix. Final decision not expected for many weeks. Not expecting Jason Kreis or John Harkes to make the list of finalists. Not surprised about Kreis. I am surprised about Harkes. I'm surprised they don't want to bring him in to have a longer conversation unless he's not that interested, which could be the case. Goff makes it seem like that's DC's choice. If that's it, I don't understand that. Not when you have Chad Ashton on the list. Ashton's been a career assistant. He's done a good job with this group right now. He's actually done a very good job with this group right now. But Harkes deserves, in my opinion, he deserves the call from them. He was there for 3 years. He was the first captain of the club. I feel like he at least deserves that call and that opportunity. Armas, I do like that he's on the list. I think he has the potential to be a good coach. I like his personality. He's still got things to learn. He's still got things to develop. I don't know if he magically gets a whole lot better in DC unless he's open to playing whatever kind of system he wants, and that helps. Maybe the Red Bull system wasn't where he really wanted to be once he got into managing, and he wanted to go down some different roads. That could be interesting, so it's worth keeping an eye on. I've spoken on Ellis. I feel the same way that I have. I don't think she has the club experience to be a success in the job, and I think this is a tricky one where there's a lot of player development that is involved in it. She hasn't done that in her career. She doesn't have that experience. That would make it very difficult. Ezra Hendrickson does as an assistant. He would be a very interesting choice. I mean, he knows the league inside and out. He knows the country inside and out. He knows the lower divisions here too. He hasn't had that head coaching job in MLS. I like that he's getting the opportunity here. I think he has as much of a chance as anybody because out of the names that are mentioned, Hendrickson has probably done more at the assistant level than Ashton in terms of successful teams. He's done more at the club level than Ellis. Chris Armas would be the one who probably has the best MLS resume out of this group, but it's not all that extensive. So if you're not sold on him, if he doesn't come in and win the interview, Hendrickson would make a lot of sense as the front runner. So we'll wait and see. I think it tells you that DC's not looking for a giant splash with this hire, outside of Joe Ellis being in the mix, which would be a huge splash in a very different way. DC's not in the mix for Piojo Herrera. They're not in the mix probably for a bigger name out of South America or out of Europe. It looks like they're going to go domestic, and they're going to hire somebody who knows the league. That could work. It's worked before.
When it comes to the matchup with Atlanta and FC Cincinnati, usually before a game kicks off, when we're doing games on ESPN Plus, we'll do keys to the game. We'll put the graphic in the low left-hand corner, and you'll do song titles. I won't ask you to do song titles because I'm asking you on the fly. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the keys for both of these teams coming into tomorrow, what do you think they are?
For Atlanta, it's score first. Period. I mean, Atlanta's been good when they've scored first this year. Cincinnati has never won an MLS game that they conceded first in. They've lost 30. They've drawn 1. Score first. I mean, it sounds really dumb and like, oh, yeah, duh, everybody would want to do that. It's so huge for this team right now from a confidence level as well, from a confidence standpoint, from what it does for the rest of the match. Atlanta has to score first. They do, I think they win. Period. Other keys for me, for Atlanta, it is attacking those flanks. It's really putting the outside backs under pressure. It's really putting Harris Medunjanin under pressure. You got to watch the long ball from him. You want to make it difficult for him to have time to hit that long pass. Very good at opening the field up. From the Cincinnati perspective, when you look at what they want to do, they haven't been defending quite as deep here lately. If they're playing Locadia out wide at times, they're trying to isolate him in situations. So you got to be careful about that. He's struggled. I think he's struggling for confidence as well. He's only got 1 goal this season. You don't want to let him get going. You don't want to let him see the ball much if he starts. You got to be careful with De Jong on the ball. He's very good on the ball. He's very technical, very good in tight spaces. But if they are going to play in a lineup similar to what we saw in their last match, they're going to have to build up play through possession. They're doing better with that. They're still not 100% comfortable playing in that way. So it will be potentially a little different than it was last time we saw Cincinnati, where they parked every bus they could find in front of the goal. I don't think they'll play necessarily that negative, that cynical, but I don't see them playing a wide-open, expansive game either. So you've got to be careful with Medunjanin, who can flip the field on you. You've got to be careful with their wingers who can get in behind when you start to commit numbers forward. You've got to finish plays. You've got to get shots. You've got to get chances. You've got to get opportunities to finish the play. You can't have a turnover on the edge of the final third and then Cincinnati's off to the races as you commit numbers forward. You've got to get the shot off. Even the shot being wide or high or poor and it being a goal kick is better than a turnover at the top of the box and Cincinnati's gone. You got to be careful about that. The little things about staying switched on that Atlanta at times has had a problem with. You know, it's a shot, goalkeeper grabs it, get in his face. Don't let him distribute quickly. Make him slow down. You know, cut off the ball to Medunjanin. You know, they get a restart. Don't let him take it quickly. Stand on the ball. You know, be a jerk like that. Do what you got to do. Don't let Cincinnati counter you, because that's their best threat. So you've got to get the first goal. You've got to attack down the flanks. For Cincinnati, they've got to defend smartly. They've got to play through Medunjanin. He is their best player right now. And they've got to look to exploit when Atlanta gets numbers forward.
What have you thought about Jaap Stam's job as head coach?
He didn't have a lot of talent to work with, so it's not really fair to judge him too much. I mean, the way he came into the team as well, you know, they're still chopping and changing what their lineup looks like. They're still trying to figure that out. They're still adding pieces like Makocho. Barrial, who is not available, he's injured. They're still figuring out what they're going to look like. It's not fair to judge him yet. I was disappointed that they were so defensive early on. When you look at the talent, I get the decision. They really can't compete straight up with teams. I think now they can a little bit more, now that they've added 2 more pieces in Barrial and Makocho. But they're new. You know, I mean, it just takes time. So we'll see by the midpoint of next year, really a better judge of him. But little surprised at how defensive, but, I mean, that's the way he thought he could get results. And, I mean, they're still hanging around. They lost these last 2 games 1-0, close. If they pull a win in one of those, they're absolutely in the playoff mix.
Injury report for Cincinnati, out Greg Garza, Przemysław Titon, Caleb Stanko, Alvaro Barreal. For Cincinnati. For Atlanta, out obviously Joseph, and Miles is listed as out on the injury report as well. Suspended after his next caution is Franco Escobar. And the word coming was it Glassy? What was the phraseology that Glassy used about having Franco available for the match tomorrow? He was hopeful that have.
Yeah, I think Franco hopeful available was the right word.
And so obviously that would be that'd be huge to have him back for this match and for the final match of the year after that as well.
Yeah. Christopher Abel says, do you think that since Cincinnati needs this win just as much as Atlanta to make the playoffs, that they'll open up in the second half if the game's level or if Atlanta is leading? I do. There's no reason not to. I think they'll wait as long as they can if the score is level. If Atlanta's leading, I think they go for it. That's one reason I picked the scoreline that I did. I picked 3-0 Atlanta because I think Atlanta gets that first goal, and Cincinnati has to get desperate, and you can exploit that because they're just not a great team. So if they have to open up, there's going to be even more holes to work through. So I think Atlanta will get what they need to get tomorrow. But if it's tight late, yeah, Cincinnati will go for it, which will open up space. But Atlanta doesn't want to wait that out. You don't want to be defensive and try to draw them out. You're the better team here. You're at home. You've got to take it to them. You got to get the first goal. If you don't, you got to keep going. You got to keep beating down the door. And if Cincinnati opens things up, then, okay, there's going to be more space to work with, and you got to punish them for that.
Juice box updates. Sorry, Halloween candy updates.
Yeah, for the last time.
Yeah. Right now, Atlanta United is in the composite a -116. FC Cincinnati to win is a +337, and your draw is a +250, basically. How is your cran palm?
It's good. I've had it before. I said it's not very cranberry-ish. It's not very pomegranate-ish, but it's a really nice emergency drinking beer. Good job by the Wild Heaven crew.
So, obviously Atlanta United, the big favorite for the reasons that we've all been talking about. So juice boxes haven't really shifted all that much. Atlanta United has maintained basically from -120 to -115. The numbers really haven't changed a whole lot over the last handful of days. Yeah,
no shock. I mean, Atlanta's in a bad spot, but they're a better team than Cincinnati. They have to show that tomorrow. There's just no way around it. Let's see. J-Dub says, do you think Cincinnati's results are even to their roster or just haven't put it together yet? I think they made some really bad decisions last year that they're still paying for. I do like the pieces they're starting to add. I mean, you kind of run through the roster, and I thought Medunjanin was a good get for them. You do have to remember that Ron Jans was going to be the manager, and he was probably involved in wanting to get Medunjanin, and then he has to leave, and you're in the situation you are with the Opstam coming in before the Orlando tournament. He goes, basics, get defensive, try to grind out results, and grow from there. So Medunjanin, I thought, was an addition that made sense for them. I think it's even better now they have Makoto next to him. Yuya Kubo, good player. I don't know if he's a great designated player in this league. I think Hani Mukhtar is kind of a similar level of player, but better. We'll see if Kubo can be better with more talent around him. I don't get why Alan Cruz has fallen out of favor. I really like Alan Cruz as a holding midfielder. If he became available, I would like to see him end up somewhere where he would play more. Only 8 starts this season is a little odd. Locadia was a smart addition. It hasn't worked yet. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on there, but talented player that just hasn't worked. De Jong, I don't know yet. I don't know if he's going to end up coming good just yet. I don't know if he's the kind of player that can kind of thrive in this league. I don't know if he's athletic enough. And athleticism is a big part of being strong in this league. You look at technical players in MLS that stand out to you, and they're guys who might not beat you in a foot race every time, but have a certain level of pace. guys who might not win every 50-50 ball, but can get stuck in a little bit. You look at your Loderos and your Valeries, like guys who can scrap a little bit. I don't know if Siem de Jong is that kind of player. We'll have to find out. Makocho's a nice addition. I like Deplan. Regaton was a player I liked, but he's gone now. Vasquez is a solid number 2 option for them right now. He hasn't really progressed past that. We haven't seen Kovacevic yet, who's on loan from Hoffenheim. He was with Hoffenheim's second team. He hasn't played yet. Van der Werf is all right. I do like Frankie Amaya. I thought that was a good draft pick. I like what his potential can be. I think he's one of the best young players in the league. Barreal is a good addition, too, from Argentina, 20-year-old winger. Very good. I like him. That's not a lot that you're like, ooh, these are really good pieces to work with. I think they do have work to do. And Gerard Nijkamp, the GM, has said 4 or 5 transfer windows. Now, I don't know if he was including this year's windows in that or not, but
right.
They've still got work to do. They don't have a goalkeeper you can count on day in, day out. Kendall Waston has kind of taken a step back this year. He hasn't been that great for them this year. Center backs are meh. Outside backs are meh. You've got some good midfielders with Medunjanin, potentially De Jong, with Amaya, with Cruz, with Makocho. Okay, your central midfield's solid. You've got Locadia, who you expect to come good. He's still on loan. You haven't pulled the trigger there yet. You've got Kubo, who's solid but a complimentary piece. And that's about it. You've got to get your back line, your defense sorted out. That has to be their target in January. And that way you don't have to play a line of 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 35 or 5 buses. You can actually just play.
Pull the Laredo garage out and just put it in front of net. To go by your number, you said 3-0 was your prediction?
Yep.
Okay, so over-under at plus 2.5, and the composite is a minus 103. 3.5 takes it up to plus 239.
I don't think it's going to be 4. I think 3. I'm going to stay at 3.
Okay. 4 on the nose is a plus 460. 4.5 is a plus 550. Chris Hutchison is in with a question.
Okay.
Since tonight is the second full moon of the month, and it's Halloween.
Oh, boy.
Does it make it a boo moon? Wow. To which Jarrett replied with a seal of approval gif, and I mean that literally.
I'm sure he did.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Oh, see, now I thought that you were going to bring in David Caruso.
No.
Basically, yes.
Wow, Chris Hutchison.
See, I didn't even do that. Chris Hutchison did that. See, but the fact that you brought in and boom goes the dynamite being tonight, that was very good.
Yeah,
I give you full credit for that.
I get lucky sometimes. Chris Rabel likes the Atlanta-Cincinnati draw number. What was that one again?
The Atlanta-Cincinnati draw number in the composite, it's basically a plus 250. It's anywhere from 237 to 270. So basically it's a plus 250 for the draw at odds portal. Depends on your bookmaker. You can get it as low as 230 and as high as 270.
I don't think it'll be a draw because I think both teams have to win. Every once in a while you see that cancel out into a draw, which is the worst. I think both teams will be desperate enough that something fluky will happen if it gets late and it's level. So I would not go draw here. And earlier in the season, maybe, but right now, no. Bernd Dursberger with a good point about Medunjanin says, I like Medunjanin, but I've been watching a lot of international soccer, and the low mobility, well-passing number 6s are dying out. That's absolutely true. Everybody's switching to the high-energy 6s or 8s. The times of the Bradley, Busquets, Trapp, etc. are over. Need more defensive bite and more athleticism. They said that about Pep Guardiola, too, didn't they, Bernd? It was kind of funny how that worked. I mean, Pep said it late in his career. I think it was after he had already left Barca. He might have been playing in Italy, or it might have been when he moved into the Middle East. He said players like me are dinosaurs or something like that. I don't remember the exact quote. And they kind of were at that time too. And then Pep kind of brought him back in some ways, which was interesting with a Busquets. I mean, Pep has said that if he was reincarnated as a player, he'd want to be Busquets. I'm with you though. Like, unless you're elite and elite enough to have a team base their team around you, knowing that you're not a mobile guy, you're not a high energy guy, but you're incredible on the ball, and you put a high energy guy next to him, you better be really good to get that. And there's not many who do. Pirlo got it, during the end of his career in Europe. You saw how necessary it was when he came to MLS, and it just didn't work. Those guys are far more limited now than they used to be. You can still make them work in the right setups. And I think Cincinnati's got it better now with Mokocho, the South African, next to Medunjanin. It's a little bit better fit. I guess maybe Jaap Stam didn't trust the other options he had there. He doesn't trust Cruz, which I don't get, to be that next to Medunjanin. So that's why they got very parking the bus kind of style. Now they're not as afraid of having the ball and playing through Medunjanin. I mean, he's getting 100 passes a game right now, which is crazy. I mean, completing a huge percentage. And they're not just run-of-the-mill passes. I mean, he's created 10 chances in the last 2 games. So you've got to worry about him. That's the best thing for them right now. I do think long-term you're going to see them go away from that. But he's kind of the bridge to that for me. I think it was a good get for them. When he became available, I thought somebody would pick him up from Philadelphia. And I think it's worked out for him. I think it's worked out, for him making Cincinnati better, being a veteran in that group too. That probably helps a little bit. But it helped Philadelphia as well, because they went and got Martinez, who is that high-energy 6. And it makes Montero and Bedoya better and more free to go forward. Look at what's happened here in Atlanta with Mo Adams playing the 6. You talk high energy. Yep. There's high energy. He's not traditional, and sometimes he scares me with how high energy he is moving into the attacking half, but he's been very good here lately. It's fascinating to see how managers are starting to rethink positions and kind of how it all shakes out. It's really fascinating.
When it comes to the lineup, I know that we project this out a lot. Are you looking at Mo starting again because of how things have been for him recently, or do you go with Jeff going up against FC Cincinnati?
It's impossible to know because we don't know where the fitness is. If everybody is healthy and good to go to start, and good to go for me is being able to play at least 60 minutes, I think you go with Bello, and at least it sounds hopeful about Escobar. So Escobar and Meza, because I don't know if Walks is going to be able to come back after leaving injured in the 50th minute. Lennon at right back. I keep the same midfield trio: Adams, Hosechu, and Moreno. Yeah. And then Barco and Dom and Kubo Torres up top to start.
Okay.
If Dom can't go, and I do feel like that could be a possibility, then Gallagher on the right side, still Kubo Torres up top. I don't think it works as well from a spacing situation with John up top because he's trying to do too much getting out of the central channels. He's not being the 9 that he should be and be central. It doesn't work as well with Gallagher because he has to do those things to find space because he's not going to win a bunch of headers. You need a focal point. Even when Torres isn't playing well like he did against DC, it can make the others around him play better. I think they elevated their game even further with John, which was a little surprising. You want to give them that focal point. And you got to also hope that the goal for Kubo gets him off the schneid here. And he plays with more confidence, and he starts to find a couple more to go along with it. So I would roll with Kubo, and Gallagher would be my substitution for Dom if it's needed.
You mentioned Pep Guardiola. Did you see the quote that he gave BT Sport about his future when they asked him about Barcelona?
Yeah, it's no surprise. He doesn't want to go back and repeat something he's already done. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he said he'd never coach there again. That's his club. That's where he played. That's where he managed. He'd go watch them. He'll go be a fan. But he's not going to coach them again. I didn't think the intention that Font talked about was for him to come in as a coach. I think it was for him to be affiliated with the club again. There's no way that Pep Guardiola should be on the outside looking in at Barcelona. You know, I mean, again, it goes to kind of like the international nature of it, things that we're still building here. Like, you know, you hear Maradona talk about Boca, even though he's managing in Gimnasia, like, he's Boca through and through. You know, watch the BBC Hour with Gary Lineker. It's an older one, but, you know, Maradona was like some honorary board person or whatever. Who knows at Boca? I mean, there's no telling what the actual role was. But, you know, he went to the games and he was like a supporter chanting and people are chanting for him. And, I mean, he's an icon there. And Guardiola should be an icon at Barcelona. Xavi, Iniesta, I mean, these guys, Puyol, should be icons there. They shouldn't be on the outside looking in. The club shouldn't be doing social media campaigns to disparage them. I mean, that stuff's madness. So they need to sort that out, and that's what you're looking for here in the long term. You know, somebody like Michael Parkhurst is an icon in Atlanta. He's always going to be welcome at the club. He's always going to be somebody that's embraced by the club. That's great. You need those figures. You need those people. That creates your traditions. That creates your history. You have to embrace it. When you run away from it in some of these situations, you lose your identity.
How much celebrating of Diego did you do yesterday?
I watched some more stuff. I went on a music binge of songs about Diego. There is no professional athlete that has more songs about them than Diego Maradona.
Really?
It is wild, like how many different songs there are. And you've got stuff from Italy, from Naples, and you've got stuff from Argentina. Like, I can't think of a song about Michael Jordan. I mean, there's the song with the song 23 that Miley Cyrus was in and did a really weird version of Michael Jordan's jersey as like a sports bra or something. But that's not about Michael Jordan. Like, these songs are about Diego. The Mano de Dios song is like his life story to the point that Diego sung it with a band, which is wild. It's just fascinating to me. So I went down those rabbit holes and watched the Planeta Goal special, which was pretty cool because it was a lot of stuff that was different, like a lot of his TV appearances, a lot of stuff that wasn't, you know, just greatest goals, greatest assists. I mean, you can go on YouTube and find those all day.
Okay, so what was the wildest thing that you saw yesterday?
From a soccer perspective, it was a YouTube video of every goal he scored at Napoli and how he scored some goals that just don't make sense. Like, you see goals that Messi has scored. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo scored some amazing goals, but are you thinking of any of them as like the greatest goal ever? Probably not. Some free kicks, maybe. That's a little bit different, category. Messi scored some great goals that you've seen similar things to, and some of them Maradona had done. Maradona's got some goals that I'm just like, where did that come from? I mean, like, his third goal at Napoli, he had got knocked over and he's sitting down and does like a sitting bicycle kick to score. Times where he would read the opposition and jump in front of a clearance or a bad pass and immediately score. Like a volley that he hits with like a slicing motion that goes away from the goalkeeper and goes in off the inside of the post from about 45 yards. I mean, just some absurd goals that he scored that are just, you can't compare him to anything. Like other players that have scored great goals, Ronaldinho has got some that, he beats 2, 3, 4. It's like, okay, I've seen some of those. I mean, Maradona's got some I've never seen anybody do. It's just crazy. The weirdest thing I saw that had nothing to do with soccer was on some random talk show, because I think he did every random Argentine talk show from like 1995 on. He even had his own. Was a show where they hypnotized him. And I'll buy it that it was legit, because They hypnotized him. They picked him up. They laid him out on like 2 stools. So his upper body's on one stool, his feet are on another stool. Completely like flat as a board, completely out. The host of the show goes to get one of his young daughters, who I was probably like 7 or 8 at the time, and like picked her up and sat her on him, like on his chest. And then host sat on him, like on his legs, and people are freaking out, like, no, don't hurt his legs. and it's like, what? And then they brought him back, and he didn't remember any of it. So that was bonkers and just crazy. Yeah, that was wild. So it was fun to watch how he was celebrated yesterday. It's been fun if you follow him on Instagram. He shared a bunch of the different things that people have sent to him and messaged him with, and it's been pretty cool to see like the outpouring of love from all over the world for him. So very, very cool.
Broadcast plans for tomorrow are what?
We will have the AT&T countdown to kickoff about an hour before kick on the Atlanta United social media channel. So that'll be probably right around 6 o'clock. That'll be on Twitter. It'll be on Facebook. We'll have the lineup. We'll talk about the lineup. We'll get into all the details of it. I can't wait to see this lineup. I want to see if it is roll with what's been playing well, even though the results haven't been good, or is it a complete shakeup? I could see both. I kind of lean towards the former, not the latter. So that's at around 6 o'clock on Atlanta United social media channels. 6:30 is the Five Stripes countdown. 7:08 or so is the kickoff from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then we'll have the full-time report for an hour after the final whistle.
I want to thank, is there anything left on the Twitch pitch before we go?
A couple more. Burned is recommending watching Stuttgart, and I need to dig into Stuttgart a little bit because, one, he is recommending a number 6 Endo for Stuttgart. Probably not too expensive, might be a great fit for Atlanta. He's been coached up by Materazzo there, and he said that I would like how Stuttgart plays. They've got 3 Argentines with them, good young players. At times, Stuttgart reminds Burned of River. It looks very Argentine. Predicting that Materazzo, the manager from Jersey, will go places. Maybe Leipzig when Nagelsmann goes to Real Madrid, which I'd be wild, or the EPL, which I think is more likely, or Dortmund when they fire Favre. Does Jesse Marsch get the Dortmund job? That's going to be wild. There's some really interesting musical chairs setting up in Europe on the coaching side if things fall into place in some different places. I mean, Real Madrid, Zinedine Zidane still on a hot seat. We'll have to see. Barcelona. I mean, I think it'll be Xavi. It needs to be Xavi. They need to back the truck up to Xavi's house. It's time. Last time they had to start this bad, it was Louis van Gaal, and he didn't make it to Christmas.
Yeah.
If they lose in Champions League this week, because, I mean, you don't get a break right now. It's bad. And if they lose in Champions League, do they make a quick move? I don't know. England, you always have possibilities of things. Does Pep sign a new deal? Does he stay at City? Does he decide to walk? If he walks, what's he going to do? I think he would take time off. I don't think he'd jump back into something, but
yeah,
crazier things have happened. You've got the potential in Germany for some moves. Like, it's going to get weird. It feels like there's a few spots that could get really wild and start some dominoes. You've got Pochettino sitting out there waiting, lurking. You've got Max Allegri sitting out there waiting, lurking. People keep waiting to get Ole out of his job. He's not going anywhere right now. Everybody wants to get Ole out of his job, but he's doing just fine. So it's going to get fascinating. It's going to get very, very fascinating. So, okay, catching up on Twitch pitch. Burn, doesn't Pep's brother partially own another La Liga club? Is that the Girona situation? I think it's like Pep's brother. I think City Football Group's got some shares there. That's Dome Tarrant's former club too. Like, he almost went back there instead of going to Flamengo. I believe Pep might have some shares in that.
Yeah, so. Perry owns Girona.
Who, what? Say that again?
Girona's owner, Perry Guardiola, brother of Pep.
owns it. He doesn't own it outright. Do you have any further information on that?
I'm getting further information.
Okay, please. Yeah. He doesn't own it outright. I think he's part of a consortium of sorts. Because I'm pretty sure City's got some shares there. It's not like New York City or Melbourne City or any of those, but I think they have some kind of ties to it. And Dome Tarrant was there before he came to Barca, so he's got ties there. While you are sorting that out, Cassie didn't know about Pep at Dorados, and that's one that was where he went there specifically to play for Juan Leo, Spanish manager who's kind of like a Bielsa type, who is known as a brilliant mind. Hasn't won as much, but just a brilliant coach. Pep cites him a lot. And he went there specifically. I mean, he couldn't really play much at that point, but he went there just to learn from him. And then he went to Argentina before going back to Spain. He went to Argentina to talk to Bielsa because Leo said he should go talk to Bielsa. And he did, and they had an asado, and they talked for a whole day, and then he decided he wanted to be a manager. The quote that came out of that was fascinating was Bielsa said something. I'm paraphrasing it because this is also translated. I think Bielsa at this point was pretty bitter with everything. I think it was after the Argentine national team job, where it was a bad 2002 World Cup. They were close, but results didn't go their way. They got knocked out in the group stage, which is unacceptable. They did keep him on. He won the gold medal in the Olympics in 2004, and then he left the post. So I think he was pretty bitter and burned out, and he talked about how this game takes the blood from you or something, or this game's all about blood, and you have to have a taste for the blood or something like that, because this game is ruthless. And are you sure you want to do this? And Pep said something like, but I like the blood. And Bielsa's kind of like, all right, he's cut from the same cloth as me. We're both insane. And kind of gave him the blessing, and that's everything goes on from there. So I'd love to get those two in a room and just talking about soccer. That would be a pretty great conversation. I'd have loved to have been hanging out at that asado just to hear the conversations about them.
City Football Group and Girona Football Group, which is Pere Guardiola's group, each have 44.3% of the club, and the remainder of shares, which would be 11.6%, are held by a fans association.
There you go. That makes sense. Christopher Abel says, if you could have either Maradona, Klopp, Pochettino, or Gattuso come to manage Atlanta, how would you rank them? Maradona would be last because he's not a great manager. Great figure, but not a great manager. I think he's a little bit better than he gets credit for, but not a great manager. Yeah. This is tough. And this is me personally. First off, this is my personal ranking. Oh, I would have said Pochettino, no question. But Gattuso is really starting to win me over with the way Napoli plays. Really starting to win me over. I didn't expect to enjoy paying closer attention. I mean, I paid attention when he was at Milan, but I wasn't watching Milan on a regular basis to look at how his teams play. I'm watching Napoli a little bit closer now because he's gotten me hooked a little bit. I thought he did really well when he came in there and righted the ship. I'm intrigued by Gattuso. I don't think he would ever work in MLS. I don't think he would ever work in the structure of MLS. He's a loose cannon. I mean, he's basically said, I don't know if I want to sign a contract extension. I don't want to go anywhere, but I don't want to be tied down. I might get angry tomorrow and leave. I don't know if you want to hire somebody like that. But I am fascinated about how interesting his teams are playing and how good they're playing and how open and attacking they are. Gattuso's winning me over. Pochettino's the safest choice for the way Atlanta, I think, wants to be and the DNA it wants to be and developing talent, developing a project. More so than Klopp. And I know that there are people who will say that that's idiotic. That's a dumb thing to say. I think Pochettino is a better fit for MLS because he likes the project. He likes to build. You have to have a manager who can build in MLS because you're going to have some players that you got to build. You're going to have some players that you've got to work with and coach them up. You're not going to be able to just go sign Virgil van Dijk, even though you're a poor team and you don't ever spend money on transfers or anything like that. You're a plucky upstart. You can't just go sign anybody. Like, you've got to build it. Now, Klopp has done well with that. I think Pochettino relishes it. So I would go Mauricio Pochettino over Klopp. He would be my first choice. Yep. Gattuso would actually be third just because of the loose cannon side of it. But that could change in a season. That could change as he gets a little bit older, becomes maybe a little bit less of a loose cannon. Maradona would be last because it'd just be the spectacle and it'd be insane. I think he would put a good staff around him. The staff he's put together at Gimnasia, I mean, they were a bad team before he got there. And he's done a good job. He's got players that will run through a wall for him. I mean, why would they not? Would he have that same effect in MLS? I don't think he would. So I just don't think he'd be as successful outside of Argentina. So Pochettino, Klopp, Gattuso, and Maradona would be my order. And then where would Piojo fit in there? Abel throws Piojo into the mix. In a perfect world, Piojo would be second behind Pochettino for me. Okay. Because he knows the region. He's managed teams in similar situations. Because he's managed more than just Club America. He managed at Xolos. He's got a wide range of knowledge that would be useful. Like, Klopp would have to learn the league and have to accept the league, and there'd be things with that would be questionable. Herrera wouldn't be fine with that. I think Pochettino has the personality where he'd be fine with that. I think Herrera would be second behind him on my list, though.
Yeah. So, Pochettino, Piojo...
Type louder, John. Type louder.
Type louder?
Yeah, you were supposed to type louder when you were looking up Girona stuff.
Oh, well, I could do that, like right now.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Everybody's wide awake now. Good job. Good stuff.
So, Pochettino, Piojo, Klopp, Gattuso, Maradona?
Yes, that's my order right now of those five.
Okay.
That is not the list because I don't know if any of those are on the list right now in real terms. But and those five, that was the list I was given by Christopher Abel. That's what I spit out. That's what happens. Ropes is reading Inverting the Pyramid. Great read if you have not read it. Highly recommended. Rope said it's fascinating how the arguments from the last century about tactics seem to be the same. The game's cyclical. I mean, Guardiola says that all the time. Like, he was trying to solve, I can't remember what game it was, but he was going into it and trying to solve, I think, a team that was going to defend deep. And he went back to basically a 2-3-5. And no, they didn't start in that kind of 2-3-5, but that's how they played. The outside backs played up. If I remember the way he did it, it was a line of four. His two center backs stayed. His outside backs came inside as central midfielders in the three with a six who stayed home. And then the others pinched into the half spaces. I think this might have been with City, where like De Bruyne and Silva pinched into the half spaces between the wingers and the number 9. And he wanted them in that. So it was probably a little bit more like a 2-3-2-3, but 2-3-5, that's the old school thing, et cetera, et cetera. So you're always looking for stuff from what's been there before. It doesn't mean you can rip it off entirely. Like, stuff that the Hungarians did in the 50s doesn't really apply to the modern game. But are there things that they did that you can take and tweak? Yeah. There's things you can take from Catenaccio and tweak it. You're seeing that. There's also people who will create new things. Like, that happens too. I mean, the counter press built on things, but it's kind of its own animal. So it's stuff comes back around. I mean, that whole thing about, needing all action number 6s. It wasn't that long ago that Guardiola thought that his type of player, who he was and who Busquets is, and I think who Medunjanin is, were extinct. That wasn't that long ago. And then they came back into vogue, and now they might be extinct again. It can go that fast. Gustavo says, Poach for Atlanta United? I think it's too much. He's very expensive, but if we have the money, just go for it. I'd be blown away if there wasn't at least a call just to say, hey, What are you doing? What are you thinking? Are you doing what I think you're doing, which is sitting and waiting for your pick of massive jobs, because you should have those. If you're bored and you don't want to wait, well, we've got something for you. But no, I haven't seen that as a viable possibility, Gustavo. I think there's been some talk about that as a viable thing. I don't think it is at all. I think he's going to get a big job. I wonder if it's Inter. Like, that's the one that I've kind of zeroed in on as, obviously, Antonio Conte and Inter are not always copacetic. I think Italy would be a good fit for him, for Pochettino. That might be the one door that opens up. Manchester United would probably always be one that you would have to have in the mix for him, although I don't think Ole's going anywhere right now. I think Spain would be a trickier situation for him. I don't know if he would go to Barcelona, even though reportedly he's softened on that stance. He played at Espanyol. He managed at Espanyol. They're in the second division, but they're blood rivals of Barcelona. I don't know if he'd do it. If Real Madrid came calling, maybe he would. Would Poch go to a Dortmund if that became available? That would be a wild, fascinating story, wouldn't it? But he's going to be in those mixes. And it's no slight to Atlanta United that they are not in that conversation. They're not. He's going to have his pick, and it'd be smart for him to wait it out. I think it's Inter. If I had to put money on where he ends up, it'd be Inter.
Okay.
I know that's a little off the board, but that's where I would go.
No, no, I agree with you about your order of five, and that would be an interesting kicking of the tires if he went to Inter.
We'll finish with these last couple. You guys are not going to get us stuck here for a couple of hours because
No.
I'm going to eat some dinner and see there goes John with his no. Turns
Ew.
into a cow.
David.
Pretty much. It's close. It's close enough.
Yeah, Millonarios is up 3-0 in the 55th, and they have a red card, so they are playing with 10 with a 3-goal lead. So let's see what's going on in Liga MX.
Universidad Católica is up 2-0 on Independiente del Valle in the fourth round of the second phase of the Ecuadorian League. It's weird. Just smile and nod and act like that made sense.
1-0 in the 61st.
Very nice. Chiefs coach Steve says it would never happen, but he would open the purse wide for Pochettino. I also agree that if his agent is worth a damn, he would not let Pochettino go to MLS right now, and that would be the smart play. Abel says, I think the only big argument for Maradona is for player recruitment. We saw this with Tata and Miggy. Yeah, I don't think it would be the same way, though, because he's not respected as a manager in the same way. He's respected as a figure of the game and an icon of the game, but not necessarily as somebody you would entrust your playing future with. And that might not be fair, but I think that's accurate right now. So he has the most value in Argentina. He doesn't have a whole lot of value in MLS, in my opinion. It'd be a blast, but no, I wouldn't go for that. Burned with a good point. Klopp does not fit MLS for many reasons. Heavy metal football in August in Dallas.
Ooh.
Yeah, people will pass out. People will absolutely pass out. We'll end on this one. J-Dub likes the Halloween themed or the Day of the Dead themed kits for Liga MX that Charlie Football put out. I like the Tijuana one a lot. That was my favorite one. We'll end on this. Christopher Abel says, if you were going to get red carded by the referee from the broadcast tomorrow, what would you do to earn the red card? One, I'd have to be yelling really, really loud. That was probably more likely in the empty venue games where they might hear me. The magic thing to do to get thrown out, and this is something I made a mistake on last year because I didn't know what was said. When Chris Wondolowski got thrown out from the bench, and I was apoplectic about it, I was blown away that, I can't remember which referee it was paying so much attention to the bench. It's not a magic word like in Bull Durham where it is a curse word that we're not going to say. If you call the referee a cheat, if you question their integrity in that, you're going to get sent off immediately. That's what would get you sent off. I wouldn't say that, because I know what that means to a referee. A referee can have a bad game. A referee can have bad calls. But if you say they're a cheat, you're done. You're tossed. I don't think it was Penso in that game with San Jose.
September 16th, 2019, it was Penso.
It was Penso. Man, he's had a couple of those crazy ones. He was accurate in that one, and I'm assuming Almeida might have said stuff along that line, too, that got him thrown out. But Wando said it in a tweet later. He said, I guess you can't say that the ref is an effing cheat. No, you can't say that. That's a red card. That's accurate. No. That's 100% accurate. I would probably just be saying something questioning his interpretation of a rule, and he wouldn't like being shown up. So he'd point the red card up at the booth and have the AVAR come and escort me out if he could pull that one off. That's what would happen.
Okay, it looks like the Day of the Dead jerseys from the Charlie website are $80 US a piece.
Well, there you go. Better get them quick. I'm sure they're limited editions. The Sholos one I thought was the best looking one, but they were all pretty sweet. Christopher said, what part of that is worse, the effing or the cheat? Cheat. That's the worst part of it for a referee. If you call them a cheat, and that's why I was surprised Harris Mendunian did not get a suspension when he was sent off for Philadelphia at the Benz, because he called the referee a cheat. At least that's what I heard. And they did not add more games to it. He was already sent off for a multitude of reasons. The cheat part, I think, was after he had been sent off. But that's one of those magic words. You can't question the referee's integrity, because then there's no point in the ref. Then you're making it seem like the referee's impartial or partial to one team, and you can't have that. That's what referees will fight against no matter what. Last one, and this is really the last one. This has come up before. Gustavo had sent me this in a tweet, and it hadn't come up on the show. Daniel Garnero is an Argentine manager that has not been mentioned at all as a possibility for Atlanta United because he's been working in Paraguay. He's won the last, before this past season, 4 league titles in Paraguay. He won the Apertura and the Clausura in 18 and 19 at Olympia. He would be somebody that Eric Lopez would know and has played for, and somebody that you could get some inside information from right there. But Gustavo says that Daniel Garnero is the Argentine coach with a local pedigree. That's Gustavo's choice. He knows Tata. He was working in Paraguay. He wouldn't be expensive. Great success. Great success at Olympia. And after not winning the title in this crazy year, they decided to part ways. That happens. I think he's looking for something bigger. Could that something bigger be MLS? Well, he just watched one of his players go, so maybe there could be a conversation there. That's one to keep an eye on. That's a really good call, Gustavo. And the Paraguayan league flies under the radar a little bit up here sometimes. So he would be one that is available now and checks a lot of the boxes. He's not as big of a high-profile person as Tata or Frank were when they were hired, but I think he checks all the other boxes for what you're looking for. So very, very interesting. Or, as Burns says, just hire Matarazzo and you're good. That one's going to be a little more expensive. I don't think he's going anywhere just yet. Maybe he's going to try to be in line for one of those next step up kind of jobs. We'll have to see.
Sholos is only available in the small and medium sizes on the Charlie website.
Already missing out. All right, in 7 minutes, Nashville and Chicago kick off. You've got Liga MX tonight. You've got the Colombian Primera tonight. You've got Ecuador still going in the second half. You've got Boca playing their first Copa Liga Profesional de Football match right now against Lanús, if I'm not mistaken. All kinds of things to watch. Nashville, Chicago is the big one for Atlanta United situation. So go Nashville. I hope you have a great person doing the guitar riff before the game that inspires the team to victory. I think they had John Oates recently, which is a very good kid. That's a very good one. Hopefully it is a top-notch guitar riff, and that inspires the team on to win at home against Chicago. And then Atlanta wins tomorrow, and then we're having a really fun week and a fun decision day to prepare for. We're on the radio at 6:30 tomorrow. Thanks to everybody who has hung out with us all week on SDH, on the run-up, on all the stuff we do. Thanks for telling people about it. Man, we can't do this stuff without y'all. We're working on adding more. We're going to have some time to add more. We're going to have an off-season here coming up, and who knows how long this off-season is going to go, at least on the MLS side. So we're going to keep ourselves entertained with some new stuff for you. So have a good rest of the night. Hopefully we get something fun to talk about for Overreaction Monday, and we'll be talking to you then. Mucha platiel.
Mucha platiel.